Oh, it's Mermaid Heist and Quarters. So one of them will be out. There's no team here. There's only one team. Cool.
Welcome back to Windmill 2019. Now in bracket play, where theoretically Austria are taking on an Italian team that has clearly only just got the message in arriving to the live streaming pitch. Benji Reese alongside Ravi Vasudevan once more. I'll be honest, I think this would probably favour the Austrians just being ready to play a little bit quicker than their opponents.
We actually just called an Austrian game not but 2 hours ago playing against the Condors. They did not look great there against the intense defense that the Americans brought. Losing that game, I believe 13-7 was the final score, something around those lines. Now the Italians walking their way, maybe trying to make this game as short as possible, save their legs for the EUC and the W24s. I don't know what strategy they're employing here.
Okay, I do know that a couple of members of the Italian women's team have suffered unfortunate injuries this weekend, so they'll obviously know that, and that maybe will be playing in their minds a little bit, perhaps.
I'm not sure about that. I think they probably got the wrong message. But
that's also very feasible.
So we're still going to wait a couple more minutes as Italy and Austria set things up for this bracket play round here. In bracket play, it's 55 minutes rounds. I believe that if the score is a greater margin than 2, the game is over. However, if it's within 1, like so 1 point difference or equal, they play cap +1. And I believe those are the rules, so we'll see what happens at the end of this game if the teams agree with us. There is a mirror half at 7 points. We did have to delay things quite a bit after a big thunderstorm. Not thunderstorm, just a bunch of rain, really.
Yeah, no thunder or lightning, but an awful, awful lot of rain. Certainly, I mean, this is only my 3rd year here, but there can't have been many Windmills with worse weather than that.
No, I've been coming, this is my 10th in a row, and we've never had to cancel games before at Windmill, so this is the first time we've had to change the format up a bit as Davide Mori goes for a flick bladey pull out the sideline. And Austria will get to start things off on offense.
We'll see if they can maybe start things a little bit quicker than they did against Condors. They lost that first half to 1. But they're going to shoot it deep. That looks good, but it's really well defended by the Italians. Got a nice hand and got up there quickly. Clearly I thought maybe that they wouldn't start this game hot, having come in a little bit late, but it seemed like they're right on the spot with that D. Going to march it up to the end zone line, looking to break to start. Going to swing it all the way across the end zone. Fakes the underneath, just taking the reset.
Many argue this actually isn't the strongest Italian squad out there right now, even though they're the national team on the senior level. Their U24 team is the focus of a lot of these players, as last year they made it to the final against the Americans and pushed them. Here now we see a big huck coming from the Italian side. It's going to be read by both players. Can he come down with it? What a great read. He's not in the end zone yet, and that's going to be an easy score and a break for the Italians, even though they weren't quite focused right away. Taking things 1-0 here.
Nice takedown there by Trombetti. I thought that, yeah, maybe their tactic worked, maybe just a little bit of mind games. I will give them the benefit of the doubt and assume they just got the wrong message and got here a little bit late, but evidently that seems to have worked. Austrians a little bit on their heels, maybe wasn't expecting the scorching deep look, and the Italians striking quickly. We talked about how in the Condors game, the Austrians really struggled with that physical defense, and this Italian side is known for being a little bit physical on D as well, so we'll see if they can adapt better in this game.
I do have to say, though, the flow in that offense up until that huck, even that huck looked pretty good, looked a lot better than what we were able to see them generate against the stifling, quick, explosive defense of the Condors. So, but this time it was so against the Condors, it was more explosive and quickness that was stopping them from making any options. Here it was full speed, tracking down a deep look that Italy was able to stop. Austria do look better than they did in that last game, but we'll see. They're going to have to bring their O-line back out there. It's rough to start a game, and these games are short, Benji. Once you go down a little bit, now they have to win. It's no longer this whole, let's score as many points as we can. This is do or die time in bracket play.
Yeah, you're happy to maybe slow points down a little bit because you know that you don't have to worry about that coefficient anymore. It's just all about getting the win. These sides ranked 4 and 5, despite that big loss to Condors. Austria currently the higher seed according to the Swiss draw. That pool lands in and then rolls onto that far sideline. Austrian's going to bring it in. Maybe looking to set up a deep look. See Maury just peel off the back of that stack. Little hammer over the top towards the break side, finds Mitterer. Fakes the around. Takes the dump instead. Looking definitely more calm than they did in the previous streamed game. Deep look goes, takes the fake. Nice gain and down that far sideline. Now they're looking potentially at a scoring shot. Cutter runs through, clogs the space a little bit. Now turns, try to isolate a reset, nothing comes. High release, Mitterer toes it. Inbounds, not quite in the end zone just yet though. Good pleasant presence of mind, great field awareness, and a little cheeky high release flick down that far sideline is going to get the goal. And the Austrians get their first point in the game, tied up at 1 apiece.
You have to wonder, you said that there is a lot of physical defense from Italy, that's true, but the Austrians look so much more comfortable. Maybe the fact that they got used to maybe one notch above when they were playing Condors, they actually look comfortable out there. And against Italian defense, you don't usually see that from offensive side. So maybe that, though they got crushed by USA, it might have helped them to get themselves a bit more comfortable in this game.
So something I was always taught as a player is, even if you lose the game, don't lose the lesson. Think about what can we do in this game, why did we lose, what can we change, what beat us, what were we not doing well. So if you face that again in future games, not necessarily from the same team, but from teams who play a similar style, you're much more adept at dealing with those problems that we face.
So Geisel here to pull for the Austrians, as though they did have a nice point there. There's still one break down. We're going to have to see Italy take the field with their O-line for the first time. A lot more of the U24 players will be out here on this line.
Big blading pull caught by the Italians, and we are back underway.
Caught beat to Laffy. Laffy, one of the big under 24 stars as well.
We'll see probably those two connect quite a lot in the backfield, I would imagine. Swung back, but there's a stoppage on a pick, I think.
Yeah, there's a pick there from the cutting space. A lot of clogging there in the back space, to be fair.
Just now checked back in. Swinging all the way across the field. Defender maybe thought about it a little bit, but didn't get in there in the end. Taking an underneath cut. Trying to scythe it across the field. Ooh, just about sticks in the bread basket. Did a very good job of getting his body behind that. So even though it wasn't clean, it did stick in there. One in the around break maybe. On a high stall. Tries to get the swing off to copy.
There was he did have the disc for a long time there.
It's definitely tight. I mean, I know in tournaments in the past, we've actually timed how long stall outs take. I think the average was about 7 or 8 seconds. The lowest we ever had was 4 seconds.
4 seconds.
It was uncontested.
Uncontested?
Uncontested.
Which tournament was that at?
Under 23s, I think, a few years ago, back when it was in London. I think it's one of those things where obviously it's supposed to be a full second. Generally it isn't, but that definitely felt like a full 10 seconds to me.
For those of you guys who listen to Eurozone, this is actually a matchup for points for me and Liam, as Liam Grant, my co-host on my podcast Eurozone. Check it out if you want to follow more about European Ultimate. We had predictions, and actually our one difference in semifinals. Both had GB Condors and Ireland. I had Italy in the semis, and he had Austria in the semis. So this could be a point difference for one of us to see which one of these two teams makes it out.
Obviously, apart from that, we have no rooting interest in this game. We just want to see some spicy, spicy Ultimate. Although I will be the de facto Liam Grant for this game, I guess. Although I don't have quite those silky Irish tones. Liam Curry commentating at the Asia Oceania Beach Ultimate Championships out in Japan. Hope he's having a whale of a time out there.
He better be. He's missing Windmill.
I know, right? What an idiot.
Laffy now.
Lovely release just behind Brunelli, and it's mopped up by the Austrians. Trying to get the disc moving quickly, maybe catch the Italian O-line on their heels. That's a really nice hammer over the top, quite expansive look to try and find that player in space, faking the deep look now. He's going to dish it back. Beyond the brick mark now, looking for Geisel. He's such a big target in the end zone, but he didn't even need to be there. About as nonchalant an end zone catch as you can get. And Austria get their break back at the first time of asking. They're up in this game now 2-1.
That was very uncharacteristic of Arturo Laffy to throw that inside flick away from his target. He's usually so good with his throws, very crafty, but very accurate. And this time he gave it up. and Austria capitalized immediately. Their D-line offense looked very smooth there, and eventually Geisel against Santucci. Geisel just wins this matchup with his legs, and Santucci just kind of gives up, realizing he's totally beat by the big man from Austria. You're gonna see here, Geisel just takes those one little fake, one little pump fake and steps, and he just has the whole side of the end zone to work with there. It's nothing really Santucci could do.
Defender not even in the frame in the end. So nice, but much better start to this game from Austria. It's always interesting after you take a bit of a pumping, whether you can get your heads quickly, especially with the shorter games now. You don't necessarily have that much time to stew over the loss. You've got to get back in the zone really quickly. You can see that they've made this an entertaining affair of a match that we could well see going on in the bracket at EUC in Győr in a couple of weeks' time as well. Both of these sides would have medal hopes. Obviously, you mentioned that a lot of the Italian strength is not going to be playing there. They're going to focus on under 24s in Heidelberg a couple of weeks later.
There are 8 players playing on both national teams that are going to play a week-long tournament in Győr, then a week off, a week-long tournament in Heidelberg, and some of them are playing this 3-day tournament right before. So it's going to be a tiring month for some of these boys, but they're out here still trying to get as high of a ranking as they can here at Windmill, trying to win this quarterfinal matchup.
Brunei swing into the middle, but that's an excellent poach block. Just locked onto the receiver, and he read the eyes and stole in there. Blading towards the far side of the pitch. He's the deepest man that has to wait for cutters to go move. He's going to lash it deep. Defender tries to close in, goes up early. That's an excellent D. Got up there nice and high. Did a good job of trying to contort his way around and not make too much contact. Fantastic defense from the Italians, and that's a hell of a way to earn the turn back.
What a play. I thought that was going to be a reception and a goal. Easy, as I believe that was Santucci, who got back up on the play after last point getting beat by Geisel, showing he still has some defensive presence here on this Italian team. Big man Chopo, also an Ulti-World contributor, so he's done some work in the journalism side as well, but his skills are even better on the pitch.
So they talk about really good players having short memories. If you get beaten deep, like, forget about it. Doesn't matter. You can't just dwell on it. You've got to go out and do your job again once more. He has the disc now, and he's going to zing a blade deep, but he's got just the wrong shape on it. And Galli tried to chase it down, but he wasn't really that close to it in the end.
That was not possible for the receiver there. Santucci going OI when he should be going IO on that huck. And this is going to give Austria another chance for a break here.
Bring out of the vertical stack set, immediately going to work it towards the break side. Throw sits, and he's able to chase it down, and he's going to put it deep, and once more there's going to be a massive humanity underneath it. Chopo can't get there that time. Great take by the Austrians, and a huge kick spike afterwards as well. You can see that they are pumped in this game.
We saw a kick spike in the last game from Joran Mosing.
Did we though?
Terrible kick spike. He can get some lessons from this game if he's watching this tape back. That's what we do. That's a kick spike. I mean, it's not the highest kick spike. One of the best I've ever seen was from Krutz, from Ben Ort in one of the Windmill finals. This one, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. And good job. Good job on the kick spike. I like that.
I do. Back in the days when I used to play Ultimate, I still do, but I'm just not very good. I do remember one point I actually went deep for a score. It happened, believe me, and I kick spiked it so high in the air that I was able to sit and wait for a good 5 seconds before catching it again and spiking it again. It's the coolest thing I've ever done on the pitch. Easily. But that was a pretty good effort.
It was a good effort indeed. And Chopo also really close there on the D. He got the defensive play before. This time, fingertips away, but Austria, like you said, looking fiery, looking good as we see Italy putting their D-line back out there. Their O-line getting broken twice in a row. So far, Italy's D-line has scored more points than their O-line, Benji, as their D-line scored a break in the first point, and their O-line has yet to hold.
Still keeping a few of the same players out there, but rotating some fresh faces on as well. And almost nearly a Callahan. Looked like he got a bit of a piece of it, but couldn't quite get enough. You can see now the Austrians look so much more driven than they did in the last game, really hustling down every pass, getting right in the teeth, and potential Callahan is for the Austrians! Rapotnik got a hand in there and macked it onto his teammate, and the Austrians are all over Italy right now.
What fiery pressure. Of course, Rapotnik gets credit for the defensive play and his teammate for catching the Callahan, but that was team defense shutting down all the unders, putting immense pressure on the dumps, as I believe Italy is going to call a timeout here, as they are now down 4-1. We did not expect this, Benji.
This is an entirely different side almost to the Austrian side, and maybe they were thinking with their eyes on with their eyes on the bracket, that maybe we can just rest our legs a little bit.
Look at that block. It's like an assisted Mac into the Callahan.
Just comes
What a play.
charging through. Charging through.
Just got some news in that the mixed ranking right now, which will be the quarterfinals matchup, we have France, Shenanigans, Krut, Germany, Guayota, Smog, Ireland, and Flo Wrocław. So we'll have France versus Flo, Shenanigans versus Ireland, Krut versus Smog, and Germany Guayota for your quarterfinals matchup. We'll get 2 of those on the stream coming up next round. So stay tuned for that.
Those sound like some pretty spicy quarterfinals to me.
Guayota has dropped a bit from the rankings. They were ranked first at the end of the day yesterday. Now they're sitting down around 6th. And I did see them playing against Krut. It looked like the game was pretty close, but maybe Krut pulled away near the end of that one. But back to this game, Benji.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of spicy quarterfinals, we've got one here. The Austrians, they've just got so much more fire and so much more desire, and they're beating the Italians in the running at the moment. And it's one thing you do not associate with this Italian side. They're normally so on the ball, they're so athletic and physical, but the Austrians just seem like they want it more, and obviously that you feel like that shouldn't be true, but it looks that way on the field.
It does look that way indeed, and you have to wonder. I do know that I don't see Simone Gasparini, who's here with the team. He had a bit of a niggling injury. A few of their players, they're missing the likes of Luca Tognetti. I don't see Toby Mine, but I don't know if he's playing on both squads. So they are missing a few players here that maybe are with their focus in the EUC and at U24s. You have to wonder if that's hurting them now, whereas Austria seems to be in full force here, and most of the good players that we know and love from that country ready and maybe have more on their mind for winning this tournament, whereas Italy maybe taking this one to kind of get some reps in and not trying to win, and it's just showing right now.
So the Austrians psyching themselves up. Another great pull from Geisel is going to pin the Italians in their end zone, and you see the Austrians chase it down, maybe thinking about another Callahan. Downfield goes to Santucci, crossing over to the O-line now. Here's Galli, winds up, lashes it deep. The massive figure of Geisel gets a monster paw in there.
Look, if you're going to huck a disc to a person that's being defended by Geisel, you have to get that one a bit higher than that. Geisel is a giant presence, and you know who should know that? The Italians should know that, because actually Geisel played along with Wolfgang Mitterer, another player on this Austrian side, with Kuzma Fota last season. Now the huck's going back to Geisel, and he's going to show what he can do on the offensive side of things. Big height mismatch. Who's he going to get positioned? And Geisel comes down with it easily for the score, getting the bookends. It's the big man who used to play for Italy.
What's the phrase? Better the devil you know. But they just can't seem to stop anything the Austrians are doing right now. And we thought maybe when Italy broke on the first point that we could perhaps have a repeat of the previous game where the Austrians came out really flat and it just took them so long to get going. But was he just getting a hold on the board a little bit earlier and then just fire? This is 5 on the bounce now.
You're right.
For the Austrians.
It was 1-0 where Italy broke them to start the game again. Starting on offense, Italy is 0% in the first 6 points. That is not a stat your coach is happy to see.
The one thing I will say though about the Austrian D-line offenses look really good. You can see that the legendary figure of Davide Mori is not particularly happy on the sidelines. Really remonstrating with some of his younger compatriots on when everyone was huddled in the Iggy this morning trying to get away from the rain and work out what was going to go on later in the day. There was a little bit of the tournament director doing a good job trying to get people involved, leading some group stretches and yoga, and the Italians throw it straight away. Throw it away straight away. I was going to say that the Italians looks in fine form there. They're leading a little dance routine, but as the Austrians doing a merry dance right now, just another break. This is an entirely different Austrian side. I can scarcely believe what we're seeing, Ravi. This was theoretically on paper the closest matchup, and it's not looking that way. The Austrians are running away with it.
Definitely not, Benji. And you said it was a different Austrian team. I actually had to run at the end of that game to go play my matchup. I'm playing in the mixed division here at Windmill, and I walked by the Austrians. They were smiling. Their faces good. I just think the Condors are that good. I think mentally Austria was trying to play as well as they're playing now. They just had a stronger team against them, and like we said before, I think they used that game as an experience, as a learning moment, and are just coming out on fire. They realize, okay, wow, that's the level of intensity we have to play at this level. Okay, let's bring that in the next game. And they've done it so far, and they just look more ready and more fired up than the Italians. I'm more shocked. I'm not as shocked that the Austrians can play this well. I'm more shocked that the Italians are struggling so much.
And it really hasn't worked for them. And as well as obviously their offense being pretty messy, when they've turned the disc over, they haven't really got it back either. And obviously with your O-line, you want them to be perfect, but you also put faith in them to earn those turns back when they do give it away, but they just haven't really been able to do that.
We see Italy coming out in a side stack here, which, again, a lot of D-line players stepping onto the field. We see Davide Mori with the Geisel matchup. That's a fiery one to watch.
That is a box office matchup if ever there was one. Laffy's just going to reset back to start the play. Simonacci comes underneath. Finds Mori. Taking a little bit of a switch now, moving defenders around downfield. Simonacci has it on the far sideline. Trying to look into the centre of the pitch. Takes the swing back to Coppy. Simonacci. Looking around, putting it deep with the backhand, but Austrian defenders are going to get underneath, and he goes up so early and gets the tip, and you see him putting his finger in the air, wave to the sideline. The Austrians are so hyped right now. It's hard not to love that.
We saw that Austrian player. Sorry, I do not have the rosters in front of me, but he was great actually in the Condors game. He got the worst of a couple 50-50 balls in that game, but you can see the strength and length he has. I really thought that was going to be an easy goal when that disc went up, but great defensive presence to go up and get that D, and now Austria with a chance to take half 7-1.
Initiating play with the break to Geisel. Motion, passes downfield. Just in the middle of the pitch looking for the dish off, but there's an easy pass in front, and then a quick throw and go to Geisel. Oh, he tried to shoot it quick, then he rushed it a little bit, turfed it, and the Italians have a chance to get it back. Simonacci with a nice toe in on the sideline. Dishes it off to Mori with a little high release backhand. Tiny bit of a melt from Coppy. He's going to put it deep again. This is a better matchup height-wise. They're just chasing around, tried to go for a big bid. I think there's going to be a foul called though. The two players were neck and neck.
There was definitely some jostling on the way to that disc, but it seemed to me that Laffy got the bid he wanted and just wasn't able to come down with it. But we'll see again on this replay. It's a great disc from Coppy, I have to say. But that Austrian closing speed we saw there, able to catch up. Look at how much distance there is between them right now. This Austrian player, with all that closing speed, yeah, I can't really argue that there's a foul call there. I think he got in the way. I don't think that Laffy had control of the disc, and I just think Laffy got the bid he wanted, and I'm not sure the contact affected it there.
So we'll see what resolution the players come to. It looks like signals being made for an uncontested foul, so obviously thinking that maybe as he's going up for the bid, there's a lot of jostling maybe with their shoulder to shoulder, so the Italians will retain possession. Laffy walks it into the front of the zone, doing a little jog, trying to get things going a little bit more quickly. Laffy looks around, just has to dump it back to Coppy. Trying to find Mori. Going to try and play it over the top towards the back of the end zone. Nice vision on that throw. Just coming over the top, and Geisel slaps down with his teammates. Frustrated with himself for turfing that throw, but for the first time in the game, the Italian O-line has scored, but they've still got a massive hole to dig themselves out on. 6-2 down.
Yes, and as we said, this is no longer Swiss draw. It's about winning the game now, so Austria's got to be feeling pretty good. We're a few minutes into this game. The game started late. The game's going to have to end on the jingle time to keep the tournament running, so that's going to give Austria the advantage here, as this is going to be a short one.
And especially as we talked as well, not worried about the coefficient, but Italy need to get these points back relatively quickly because they need to be close enough when that cap horn goes off in order to make that, in order to get the cap +1. If they're too far behind, the game will end on that point.
It has to be within one. We are 25 minutes into this 55-minute round. We will hear that jingle in about a half an hour, and Italy's got a lot of work to do to make up this 4-point deficit.
So getting the turn back after that errant throw from Geisel.
Has to be said, the last time the Italy D-line was out there, they got a break their first time out, so we'll have to see if they can add a bit more pressure to stop this Austrian team, which is right now on fire, but hasn't had to play an O point in quite some time. We see a bit of a junky look here from Italy.
Yeah, they're just going to try something a bit different, make the Austrians have to take a couple of seconds to think about it. Mori's taking the Mitterer matchup. A little hammer over the top to get the disc moving, and another bigger one there into space. Mitterer's gone deep, but the handler wasn't looking at it.
Acres free there.
Now he comes under. Thinks about the deep look. Mori swaggers up to the force, but they just swim around. Dishing it back. Just playing in the backfield for a little bit. Italians transitioning to a more traditional one-on-one coverage now. Trying to get wide, big bid comes, but it's a little bit late. Gets up on the force quickly enough to stop the next throw going though. Wants the inside backhand, instead just goes towards the far side. They're going to shoot for the end zone. That was nice fluent offense from the Austrians. They could get yards when they needed, but when it wasn't there, they were more than happy to reset it back, and they're going to take half with a 7-2 lead here.
7-2, and Italy will get to receive at the beginning of the second half. I believe they're already on the correct sides of the disc right now. Good defensive pressure, though, from Italy. There were a lot of contested throws. That junk look definitely slowed Austria down. But as we see here, eventually they were just patient with it and eventually found the open options as the Italy defense wasn't able to keep that strength down there in the red zone.
Obviously, it's great when your team gets on a really nice break train, but one of the things that I find happens sometimes is if your O-line goes off the field for an extended period of time, sometimes when they come back in, they're a little bit cold. They're not necessarily quite as in the game as they're used to being, and so sometimes that can cause turnovers. But they looked pretty fluid there to me.
It did take them a little while to get things going, and Italy forced them into a few throws, but you're right. They did keep their presence in mind. They did keep throws to the easy open shots. The score is now 7-2.
The pull goes high over the stadium. What an absolute monster of a pull. Austrian pulling has generally been very good. And it puts your defense in such a good position when the opponent has to work it all the way from the back of their own end zone. Especially if it gives you time to chase it down as well. And once more, this is Callahan country for the Austrians. We've seen it once this game. Will we see it again? Geisel gets on the floor, but able to get himself back. Stepping a little bit off, just trying to make the disc go laterally. Trying to keep it in the end zone. Nice leading throw. I think he was copy. Motioned to Galli, wanted the look to go deep, but the cut wasn't there. And that's swinging it across.
Again, it's been about 15 passes since they started this point, and there's the layout D from Geisel, but it's collected. They still haven't got even 5 meters out in front of their defending end zone.
It feels a bit mean to tell him to catch his D for that. He did very well just to get a fingertip to it, but not quite enough. Brunelli was able to make the catch regardless. Oh, and that time just looking downfield. Fumbled it, Geisel picks it up. Got a one-on-one in the end zone, but they're just going to put a higher release, and there's no way you're going to stop Michael Geisel in that space.
That is the correct choice to do there. There's nothing that the Italian defender there could do to stop the big man. Geisel has now in Austria up to an 8-2 lead here, and the clock is ticking. 25 minutes left in this game. I can't really see a way of Italy coming too far back into this one.
Especially with the way the Austrians are playing. They just look
exactly.
They look like an entirely they're playing the way that we knew they could play, but we didn't see in the Condors game. But this is the Austria that you can tell is going to be a real force at EUC, and they're just playing a bit of matchup ultimate, just like, yeah, we've got the big man, we can just put it out into space, and there's no way you're going to get around a man that big.
Geisel, a good weapon. Again, used by La Fota last year when he played with the Italian club team. I wonder if that plays into this a bit. Wolfgang and Geisel probably know this Italian system very well and probably talk to their coach about exactly what Italy is trying to do. I'm guessing it's a very similar system. This Italy team, heavily based out of Bologna. So I imagine it's very similar, and you wonder if that is giving Austria the edge here.
It was nice. It is definitely one of the things that I would imagine would play into this game. Obviously, it's great when you can, especially in a Worlds year, when there's kind of a bit more on the line, when you can attract all these players into your club. But see, as you can see, sometimes there's for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and maybe, as you mentioned, that might cost them here, and maybe in EUC as well. There are other players as well who picked up with the Italians like Loritz Herbitslev as well, the Dane. So maybe if they play, he might know a little bit of that as well. So here's the Italian offense trying to get their first point in the second half. Simonazzi stumbles a little bit and
give, go, tick-tock, tick-tock. The stall hasn't gotten to 3 yet. These Italians moving the disc, as that's the first time that I think they've even gotten the stall above 2 seconds.
Yeah, definite concerted effort for quick disc movement there. That's a towering sky from Santucci, and just going to jam it in the jam hole into the front of the end zone. The Italians reduce the deficit, but they're still 5 points down, 8-3 the current score.
That was some quick movement there from the Italians. Very impressive stuff. Sometimes you tell your offense, you know, you don't want to move too quickly, we'll make a mistake, but they're picture perfect. The only difficult throw is that blade, but you know, when you got a guy like Santucci there, you can trust him to make a play like that. 8-3, but they still have 5 points that they're going to have to get pretty much on the jump right now if they want to get back into this game.
If you can keep the disc moving quickly like that, it's so difficult as a defender because you've got to keep your head in the swivel, always working out how you can orbit your matchup as well to make sure you've got your body in the best position, but it's so difficult when the disc moves so quickly like that.
Very curious. Also, there's another stream going on right now between the Mermaid Lumberjacks and Heist, the two kind of pick-up-y teams. I mean, Heist is, of course, a real U.S. club team on the other stream, but they have a lot of help from other clubs and European help as well. Mermaid Lumberjacks, another big kind of fun pick-up team. So one of these two teams will make the finals, well, the semis, sorry. As here, it's looking like Austria still could come away with it, but one little break train could change things up here, Benji, so don't turn your dial away yet.
We see the Austrians do it in the first half, so we've seen that it can be possible. And as well, we saw in the Condors game that we've seen the Austrians have it done against them as well. A good pull from the Italians is going to set the Austrians up in difficult field position, but they get a nice gainer to start with, moving out their end zone a lot quicker than the Italians did, but they're having to do a reset. That is tight dump coverage, just about getting the disc off. I don't think Davide Mori agrees with that. He's calling the stall out. The Austrians haven't noticed. I think they have now.
Stall out call. He definitely had the disc in his hands for quite a long time. It was a very impressive around backhand. He kind of stepped backwards with the pivot. Uncontested stall out is being called, so it's a turnover for the Italians. This could give them the break chance they need. Very short field to work with now.
Lovely work on the mark from Davide Mori, getting really active, keep staying on the balls of his feet, moving around, just not really letting a window go through, but the downfield coverage was great. Excellent dunk coverage, especially as well from Trombetti. Davide Mori is going to check the disc and pick it back in immediately. Oh, the swagger from Davide Mori.
I was definitely expecting him to give one of his teammates that disc so he could set up an end zone play, but he was saying, no, I'm getting this done right now.
Cometh the hour, cometh the man.
Austria is calling a violation right now.
I think they're saying that he did that a little bit too quickly.
I mean, he tapped the disc in, and then he picked it up. I don't think there was a violation there. But maybe Austria is supposed to tap it in?
Oh, maybe he tapped it in just before everyone was ready. Do it again, Davide. Glasto rules.
This is now tapped in. He's not going to get that immediate option this time, and he's going to throw to a man who's fallen over that I believe will be calling a foul.
Yeah, uncontested foul. You saw the Austrian player make that signal immediately.
It's an uncontested foul, so he will get a full stall count right now. And he has his man open on the open side. Can they use this? Yes, they can, and Italy gets a break. They're now 4 points in. They've done one of them with the impressive mark of Davide Mori, getting themselves a little closer to being back in this game, but still have a big hole to work themselves out of.
So just a little bit of update about the games we're going to be streaming next. In the mixed rounds, we're going with Germany versus Guayota and Shenanigans versus Ireland. So keep it locked here on the Windmill YouTube channel. Tell all your friends to watch at home. Share it on the social media. You can watch as well on the Windmill Facebook page. Hello to everyone who's watching the disc, watching the games there as well. These exciting quarterfinals. These are the reasons you come to Windmill. Obviously, everybody loves the Swiss straw, but this is what you want to be. You want to be in bracket play at the end of the tournament. You want to play these win or go home games.
This is what we've all been waiting for, and I got to say, very happy that the rain cleared its way out so that we could actually have a full round of games today, we were already thinking about contingency plans of what we would do if we could have no games today. What could we do to make the tournament still work tomorrow? We were thinking about having just quarters, semis, finals, but not a crowd to watch the final. We were thinking about today canceling the last round of Swiss draw. In the end, we were able to do it. We were able to get all the games down. They're a bit shorter, 55 minutes, but very nice that we're able to have that going, and that means that tomorrow we'll get to have the great, exciting final with the huge crowd and everything going, and we're very excited here at Windmill for all that. Italy trying to come back here as Austria are going to have to take the field after getting stalled out in the last point.
So deciding against that little quick one, getting it underneath. Oh, the player was very close, not quite close enough, absorbs the contact, fakes it. You can tell that the Italians have ramped it up a little bit in this second half. The put goes. Oh, that looks like it's right on the money to me. Gets up nice and early. Not quite in the end zone yet. Going to flip it in. Nice leading IO backhand for the goal. That's much better from the Austrians. Striking deep. The Italians had no answer that time, and they open up the 5-point advantage once more. 9-4 the current score.
I definitely agree with you, though, that the Italians showed a lot more tenacity on that defensive point, and on the last one when they were able to get a break as well. They're back in this game with all their fire. They still want to try and win this thing. They don't like to lose. Even if they don't have their full squad here, maybe their focus is a little bit somewhere else, but this is not a team that wants to go down like this, and they're still fighting. Try and see if they can sneak their way into that semis, but it's going to be hard. There's not a lot of time left on the clock, and they're down by quite a bit.
Yeah, the Italian national teams are known for being very passionate, and their club teams are as well. Obviously, CUSB is the main team, but we think about as well, the Red Bulls, also from Bologna, have repressed a lot on the European stage recently. Teams like Costa Rica as well from Rimini. Italy is fast becoming one of the European ultimate powerhouses. As we mentioned, most of it centered around Bologna. So deep pull from the Austrians. They're pulling again, right on the money, caught at the back of the end zone. Here's Laffy. He finds an option open. Fakes and just swung back in the centre, and Arturo Laffy has it now. He finds Brunelli on this sideline. Looks for the reset to copy, and he's got it. Disc pops up a little bit, but that's not going to be a problem. So there is going to be a stoppage downfield due to a pick. See players making the hand signals, making things nice and clear for us.
One thing I haven't seen as much this game is something that I'm usually used to seeing when I watch Italian teams, especially Bologna teams, play. Not using the break side as effectively as they usually are. Usually those around breaks, those inside breaks with an OI shape that's like this classic Italian look. Haven't seen them use it as much. I don't know if Austria's been playing a bit more straight up to kind of take that away. I here we see a nice deep shot, making it 9-5, but yeah, interesting. I don't know if it's Austria's defensive plan or just maybe they're missing a few of their throwers that are usually doing that, but different style here from Italy.
I totally agree with you there. There's definitely normally a concerted effort, and a lot of the Italian teams, they play quite a bit of beach as well, and that's a style that really goes well on the beach, getting it on the break side because it's so difficult to recover the space. This time, just working it down the open side worked, dishing it off, and that's the risk if you can get it to a handler running through. They're catching it as they're seeing the field, so they can see the cuts develop, and in the power position as well, you've got your momentum going forward, so you can really get the right shape and drive on the throws, and that was a pinpoint put to Fabio Galli.
So here we're 9-5, working the full workday here in this quarterfinal round.
What a way to make a living. The sun's even beginning to come out here at Windmill. The weather gods who frowned on us this morning is smiling on us a little bit now. The Italians desperately going to try and claw back some more breaks if they're to make this game a famous comeback. This ball's going to sit and sit and sit, and you can see he's just leaving it. Hits one of the advertising boards on the sideline and is going to be bricked. Walked to the brick mark. Italian defender waiting to check the disc in. Going to try and force it deep to Mitra, but the throw's off target, and Lafayette crossing over to the D-line and peeled off the back of the stack as well. And now he's got the disc, trying to lead the D-line offense down for a break. They want it all in one. looking deep, but there's going to be defenders underneath it. Ripped out of the sky by Franceschi. There's a reset available. They do take it. So we've got a man at the front of the end zone. They're just going to be a little bit calmer. Laffy from his knees throws the flick, towed in on the sideline, and the Italians got a little bit of fire, a little bit of something about them now.
Arturo Laffy, ridiculous. That's the kind of plays and throws we're used to seeing out of the young man from Italy. Now, you talked about how you think Austria from the previous game and this team are two different teams. What I think is different is Italy from the first half and this second half Italian team. A lot more fire, a lot more eagerness to try and win this game. I think perhaps you're right that being off of the game, for those who didn't tune in for the beginning, they arrived late to this game. Maybe that just didn't let them get they weren't mentally ready to get into this match, and the Austrians were prepared, poised, warmed up, and Italy now in the second half getting things back going. It's reminiscent for me of yesterday's matchup where I called with Stefano Pazzo with the Italian women's team playing against Switzerland. The Italian women went down 5-1 in that game, but still managed to claw back and win the game 12-9. So we'll see if the Italian men have learned something from their female counterparts and can make a comeback here. Yeah,
that was a game that had a extended stoppage due to a pretty unfortunate injury to one of the Italian women. And then the Swiss came out a lot hotter out of that break. Just seemed like maybe the Italian heads were down, and then they found something in them, and the Italian open side showing the same thing here. Blading backhand pull fielded on the roll by the Austrians. Big powerful fake, trying to squirrel a free in the handler space, gets a little dish up line, trying to squeeze it down the far side. Santucci thinks about the bid, gets there late. The Austrian player makes the catch. He doesn't look happy with that attempted bid. His teammate does the right thing and moves him away, and there's a little bit of afters here.
A lot of drama here on this point. I think Santucci did come in hot for that bid. Maybe a little bit of dangerous play on his point of view, but both teams shaking it off now.
Yeah, it's good to see as well their teammates just say, just move on, leave it. There's no point getting into a bit of a Barney about it. And you can see it does come in there late and comes across, and it could have been a lot worse than that.
So unfortunate chain of events there as well. Has been a pretty clean and spirited game up until this point. Even an uncontested stall out, which you rarely see. But 10-6, the Austrians are going to make that one count. And they still have a 4-point lead, but Italy are looking a lot more fiery, a lot stronger right now.
Austrians pulling up 10-6 here. The Italians spreading out to begin this possession, trying to give all their cutters a little bit of space to work with. Squeezing it underneath to Laffy, lashing it deep, trying to find Gully, but I think it's too much on it. Photographers at the back of the end zone got a good shot of it going past him, and the Austrians can extend their lead now.
If the Austrians punch this one in, there's only 10 minutes left. This would put them in a 5-point lead. Getting 5 points back in 10 minutes is not something that I see this Austrian team exactly giving up. So this is a do or die moment for Italy. They have to stop this point.
And you can hear the sidelines getting very loud, barking instructions at their teammates, making sure they do their job. Mark getting a bit physical. You can see everything's just ramped up a little bit. This Italian O-line wants to get that disc back. Rapotnik slices the ground, tacos that a little bit. You can see it. You can definitely see that's bent.
Yeah, they need a new disc after that one.
A slightly ugly catch, it has to be said, but
hey,
get to stick in the breadbasket, that's what matters.
You get control the way you get control. That's all that matters.
It's not quite a between the legs catch, but it's quite high up there. The lefty finds an option underneath. Nice lead throw, not quite in the end zone just yet. A couple of players come through, just choosing instead to dump it. And we're trying to find a way to open up that far side of the end zone. Fakes the hammer, not going to put that out of the toolbox just yet. Oh, going to do it now, looking for a Potnig. Defender underneath it. What a great defensive play in the Italians. Getting the disc quickly, the disc just hung up in the air for too long, and the Italian defender got position and was able to knock it away.
So Italy on the bounce here, Laffi picking it up immediately. He wants to score this point and score it quickly. They're running out of time here as the clock ticks towards the end of this game, Jingle.
And they desperately needed that turn. They could not afford to get broken again.
They got to get within one. By the time this 55 minutes reaches us, it's 47 minutes now on the clock.
Just under 10 minutes left. Trombetti finds Laffi. I thought that option could have gone, but doesn't want to turn it over. Instead, going to zing a blade to the far side. Thought he could have towed it in, didn't in the end, and slides into the middle of the field for Gali. Gets a slap from the defender, knows he got beaten there, and the Italians close the deficit, just 3 points behind now at 10-7.
Big point there for Gali, getting the bookends, getting the D on that big hammer, and then finding that final score. Italy now 3 points away. They still got to make their deficit. They got to get 2 more in these last 7 minutes, and if they can do that, then we're going to have a cap on our hands.
So this Austrian O-line getting ready to come back out here. The Austrians got the turn but couldn't punch it in. Nice defense on the hammer to the break side, and then at the second time of asking, the Italians march the disc down the field. The kind of unlocking throw here, that blade towards the far side, make sure you catch it. Worry about your feet later, just make sure I've got the disc. We saw them earlier, drop catches, just thinking about what the next thing was going to be, but always first things first, make sure you've got the catch. And then continuation into the end zone for the goal. So Davide Mori has the disc now as well for the Italians, getting ready to pull. He's going to go with an inside-out backhand, trying to get a lot of hang time on this, goes into the middle of the end zone.
Austrians coming out in a side stack, looking to isolate Wolfgang Mitterer in the middle of the field.
He's going to come towards this near sideline and collect the break backhand. The Austrians have broken the force a lot better than their Italian counterparts, but that's not something that tends to happen too often.
A big pick has been called.
Happened quite a while ago.
Yes, it did.
So Mitterer will regain possession here.
Not sure what the stall count is. It's probably coming in a little hot.
Cheeky throw to access that tight little channel there.
Another pick has been called downfield. I believe this time it will not have affected the play in the backfield.
Yeah. Happening quite a way away from the disc. So that swing is going to hold up. And now checked back in. Little Oyo style break there. Outside in shape, but go into that inside out lane. Takes the high release backhand. Gets a bit of contact from Santucci and calls the foul.
Santucci, they're contesting that. I mean, if there's contact caused and you're a moving target, it's almost always a foul on you.
So the two players engaged in a discussion here.
He is contesting the foul, so it's going to come back in on 6.
So still count rising. Gets the swing into the center of the pitch. Really using the full width of the Austrians. The Italians trying to force the disc down the middle of the field, but the Austrians are doing the right thing and taking advantage of those switches, or just about makes the catch. Defender was close, not quite close enough, and a high release is going to sit a little bit. Once more, the Italian defender is a split second too late.
Austria getting visibly upset about the physicality that this Italian team is bringing. You can see there on that score. Wasn't happy with that bid. I do think that one was a bit cleaner than the Santucci bid we saw earlier, but Austrians getting a little frustrated. I hope it doesn't get into their heads. That's the kind of thing that could let them run out of steam. But again, 4.5 minutes left in this game. They have a 4-point lead. I think that's going to be a hole that Italy's probably not going to be able to get out of.
Does feel like too much of a cushion this late in the game, and I will say actually that the bidding defender did get a couple of slaps from his Austrian opponents, and afterwards the scorer did also just give him a little tap as well. So good to see that they were still on good terms.
See there the almost clatter of people, but good body control there to make that one not as bad. And here we see the defender come through, kind of rip the Austrian player's hands down. It wasn't that dangerous, but you see that visible frustration there.
but it's good to see that afterwards they kind of took a breather and all is well.
11-7, all is especially well for the Austrians, who, though Italy is coming back firing in the second half, gave themselves up a bit too much of a cushion in that first one.
Laffy catches the ball right in the front middle of his end zone. Lovely break towards this near side. Trombetti's going to put it. Galli's got position, goes up nice and early. Great take from Galli. Defender didn't have a sniff of it. Fantastic put from Trombetti.
Galli's been playing great this game, making lots of big plays for the Italians when they need them. 11-8, the score is now 3 points difference. Italy has got to get within 1 before that cap goes off. I can't say it enough. 52 minutes on the clock now. 3 minutes about left in this game, and we'll see, can they get a couple breaks late? Look at that inside break to kind of open things up, and then Trombetti with a big backhand to Galli. A little bit of pressure from the Austrian player, but Galli able to go up strong, come down with the disc, and get himself a score. Love, that's the kind of break side throwing I was talking about that I hadn't seen as much out of the Italians so far this game. Opening things up great there, and then using their long backhand bombs to get things open. As, yeah, 11-8 this quarterfinal matchup. It's not really over yet, but it's still, clock's ticking, Ben.
It's getting pretty close to over. We've certainly got the O and the V, maybe not the E and the R yet.
And we see here, interestingly, I think Austria was ready before Italy. Italy should be calling these Ds quickly and trying to get these points going strongly, but of course they probably don't know exactly what time it is on the clock, so they might not realize what position they're in terms of clock management.
You've got to have someone on the sideline who's aware of how the clock is ticking when the games are in this format.
It's not something you usually have to worry about in WIF-DIF championships, where there's always a cap +1 at the end of the game. Here in Windmill, I think there has to be a score difference of +1. But here, Italy, a chance to get themselves within 2.
Laid out for it, but the throw bounced off his hands. We saw a couple of those in the game we streamed for the Austrians against Condors. Moray centers the disc. There's Simonazzi. Looking downfield, everyone's set very deep. Nice break. It's gonna get the disc to Franceschi.
And if they can score this one before the cap, they are alive. You have to say, if they can score this one before the cap goes on, that makes it 11-9, which means they have the chance to make it 11-10 even if the cap goes off during that point, and then it'll be a cap +1 game to 12. But it's going to be tough for the Italians.
Needs to get it in quickly. Santucci has it. And the throw bounces off Franceschi's hands.
A bit of a low throw there from Santucci as Austria wisely walks slowly up to this disc. I don't know if they're aware of the time, but they need to make this point last as long as possible. If they can just keep the point for another minute, even if they don't score it, they will have won the game.
But they do want to score it. Nice, big, deep shot. Had position on it, goes up for it. Dump back to Mitera. Fakes it into the end zone, instead just takes the swing. Oh, there's a player wide open at the front, but they're clearly in no rush. Faking around, and oh, there's a player wide open. It's suspiciously open almost. It looks like there's been a pick, which is why he was quite so free.
There will be a pick, but I have to say, Benji, the clock's ticking. Of course, our clock's not exactly with the jingle clock on the screen, but if we are 15 seconds away from the cap, as we hear the cap start there.
I think he's trying to call a timeout. The jingle technically hasn't. Time technically isn't over yet. Now time's over.
He tried to call the timeout before. I don't know. That's cheeky.
He tried to call it before it was checked in. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you do that?
I think it has to be live for you to call the timeout, or there's going to be another pick downfield.
But either way, this game, if they're going to follow the rules exactly, is over. Have to be within 1 for a cap. So we'll have to see if Austria punch this in. It's going to be game over. If Italy punch this in officially, it is game over as well. We'll see what Austria does with that. A lot of physicality on the Italian marks here.
A little bit too much this game.
And it's interesting because I think that physicality is actually hurting them, because they need this point to go faster, and these long stoppages is part of what extended this point out. But again, it's hard to manage those clocks when you can't see them, and that's not really your focus.
And another stoppage here. This game's just descended a little bit.
Surely has. But if things go the way of the rules Austria has. There are no timeouts after the cap, so this will be a +2 on the stall count. This stall's coming in at 8 now.
Just about gets off a high release towards the back of the end zone. Oh, Santucci got the disc. There was quite a high level of contact, but nothing called. Simonazzi swings the disc at the back. Looking underneath, Simonazzi has it back now. Santucci calls for it. He does eventually get it, but he has to come very shallow. Looking around, not really seeing anything going on downfield. Simonazzi collects it as a reset.
It's interesting here. If I was Austria, I would kind of just let them score at this point because as long as I'm correct about the rules, I might be off on that, but I'm pretty certain that it is only a cap +1 if it's within 1. You might just want to finish this point off and get ready for the semis if you know you've already won. There we see Lolo on the camera, running around. Here's a big huck.
Too big in the end.
Too far, so this game's still going to extend a bit longer, as we will now probably have to force the next quarterfinal to start a little late.
Obviously, really tight up against things in this shorter time slot. The games at Windmill were slightly shorter this year anyway as well, to give people a little bit more time to enjoy the party at this 15th edition, but the weather has had other ideas and made the games even shorter than they were previously. Trying to lead it towards the break side. Mori gobbles it up and a lead pass to Simonazzi. But that game came too little too late for the Italians. They fought their way back in the second half, but they dug themselves such a big hole in the first. Conceded 6 on the bounce, and the Austrians will cement a semi-final place here at Windmill 15.
You do have to give credit to the Italians. They had a great second half, really flew their way back into this game with a lot of fire, a lot of intensity, and really they were on the upper hand in this second half. But Davide Mori, of course, frustrated with the rules probably at this point, that he wasn't able to keep that momentum going a little longer. 11-9 final score. Austria will be in the semifinals, and we'll be back with a quarterfinal matchup very shortly.